I feel like that is such a tricky thing to manage.
In the last couple of seasons, like you said, it's kind of been it felt a little bit more like telling, not showing, with some of the relationships and the friendship.
It's a good opportunity to kind of speak to a different audience, and I hope it has a clear audience of its own, like Torchwood did.
We inherited their world. They want it back.
We will flood. We will drown. We will choke.
We could end the conflict between our species.
Oh, today's the day. We stop.
Welcome to Radio Times' Doctor Who Insiders. We are so close now to the war between the land and the sea, the long-awaited Doctor Who spin-off.
The long-titled Doctor Who spin-off.
Yeah. And we've got some thoughts about what we'd like to see from it, haven't we? It's all been kept quite under wraps, but we've got the basics of what we're going to look forward to. A big thing for me, I think it needs to learn a little bit from the past season of Doctor Who with its characterisation. I think it seems like the show is kind of hinged on these two lead characters, potentially a bit of a love story. Between
a bit of romance. There's not really been a lot of romance in the latest Who era, bar like odd episodes of romance. So like to have it be like a major fixture in the storyline, I think would be quite interesting. And Russell's not really gone so hard on romance in the Whoniverse in a while. So it would be nice to kind of return to that, because it has worked really well in the past. So it'd be nice to see how they do it here.
And I think that's where Russell T Davies' talents have traditionally been, in the kind of characterisation and really making us believe in these relationships. So I think it's something that maybe has fallen a bit in the past season of Doctor Who. So I'd really love to kind of see him return to kind of form on that and really bring us this believable love story between these two, because I think the whole series is going to kind of hinge on their interactions.
Yeah, and it's quite short, so you kind of really need to be sucked into that relationship if they are the co-leads, and we're kind of going to get drawn into this story. And I suppose, like you said, if you think back to kind of how Rose and like Martha and Donna were introduced in those like early Who seasons of New Who, and then like Torchwood, when we were introduced to Gwen and the team, like we were kind of immediately transported into their lives. They felt like real people.
Yeah.
But I think in the last couple of seasons, like you said, it's kind of been it felt a little bit more like telling, not showing, with some of the relationships and the friendships. It was almost like it was 0 to 100, like that people were like automatically best friends, automatically like getting on. If there was a hint of like discord, it very quickly evaporated. So it'd be nice to kind of return to really strong characterization, and also that we see it develop, and it's not something that's just like being like spoken to, speaking to us like that.
And them feeling like real kind of people with built out lives. It's also going to have to address pretty quickly, I feel like, where the Doctor is.
I think this is the problem with these expanded universes, when you do have various entries following different characters and different people. I think when you've got somebody like the Doctor, who is essentially, a superhero for the Whoniverse, and why would he not be around amidst this huge event going on? It was a similar issue, I think, with Torchwood, but, it was kind of addressed in different ways. So it'd be intriguing, particularly given the cliffhanger of the latest season of Doctor Who. How are they going to address her absence, their absence?
The show is clearly going to tackle climate change. And I feel like that is such a tricky thing to manage. I feel like so often it feels like you're being preached to or lectured at when it comes to climate change, but it is also such an important thing to kind of tackle. We are in an emergency, sort of. It needs to be brought to our attention on screen, and it's so important that this show, I think, does that, and I think it's going to come up organically. But is there any kind of way you think it can be brought up organically in the war between?
I suppose, I think, like we were saying about the characterization, I think that's kind of where it comes down to everything, really. Like, if we believe these characters, and if there's kind of certain peril and issues that they're facing, then that's where it will feel grounded, if we feel grounded with them. So I suppose, like, there were some complaints about the last couple of seasons of Who, that when they were dealing with some kind of like messaging and kind of educational topics, it felt very telegraphed. But then I would argue also at the same time, it's a family show, so you kind of need to be a bit more kind of straightforward with the messaging and kind of what's going on. But this show seems a bit more mature in its themes and in its content, so hopefully they kind of deal with it in a much more nuanced way, I would hope.
It's obviously not been the first time that Doctor Who's tackled climate change, but I think it's going to be the most kind of prevalent and maybe obvious and even the most natural way into it, because talking about the sea devils and the ocean and stuff, like, is an obvious way in.
Yeah.
So I just hope it's done justice, because not many shows have done it well, I think.
Yeah, and it feels right for Doctor Who, and I kind of feel like, given the focus of the episodes, given that they are focusing on kind of like a cross-species relationship, there is a very Doctor Who way to tackle it. So hopefully it is done justice.
Yeah.
But I guess speaking of, that theme, and also speaking of the characters, particularly the two leads, this show obviously has been marketed as having quite a heavy unit presence. And while I kind of hope that they do address the Doctor's absence, and we do see these unit characters, I hope it doesn't become almost like too bogged down in that kind of spin-off referencing, and kind of just being too focused on them. Like, we've only got 5 episodes. We really want to kind of delve into these two leads and kind of really feel like this show is its own beast, I guess. It's kind of what I would hope for, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think it has the opportunity to talk to an audience outside of Doctor Who. I think a good spin-off can often stand on its own and should stand on its own, and kind of, while obviously being a Doctor Who fan is going to help people, and it's going to be a lot of references, a lot of lore. I don't think you should necessarily have to be a Doctor Who fan to watch it. I feel like that's the way they're going with it, and I feel like with franchises like this, there's such a danger, and I think it's happened to Marvel of you have to have almost done a PhD to get every reference and to figure everything out, and I feel like that would only put people off. So I think it's a really good opportunity, while Doctor Who is kind of, while it's been over here with Disney, and it's had that more kind of family-friendly marketing and that vibe, it's a good opportunity to kind of speak to a different audience, and I hope it has a clear audience of its own, like Torchwood did. I think that was such a success of Torchwood that it was grown-up Doctor Who, and it did it so well, and I think that opportunity probably is here again.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going quite so much as mature as Torchwood, but I still hope it has that sense of kind of like being quite grounded, despite, kind of monsters and, variously high concept kind of issues and things coming up. I still kind of hope that's the tone that it strikes. Yeah,
it's just the matter of tone, isn't it? It doesn't have to like go into super heavy or mature topics. It is just literally the tone that the audience gets from it.
And I suppose, and like we're saying about the length, obviously there's only so much that they can delve into this, but then I suppose that also begs the question of, like, how will it get resolved? Will it get resolved?
Yeah.
Are you concerned about that at all?
I'm just hoping. I feel like it's such a trap to fall into for TV series, especially on their first season, to kind of not wrap things up properly in the hopes of another season, and that's kind of a bit of a pet peeve of mine. So I'm hoping that, I'm not saying every thread has to be perfectly tied into a bow and there we go.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping enough of the story is wrapped up and we get enough of a satisfying kind of ending, especially because we don't know that we're going to be getting more of this. So I don't mind if a sort of a door is left a little bit open, but I need the questions to be answered, and that is going to be tricky in a 5-episode season. But I've got faith in Russell T Davies. I think he's a great writer. I think he can do that, but it's going to have to be kind of a tight 5 episodes, and it's going to, he's going to have to put a lot of skill into this.
If anything, I would say the episode count gives me even more hope in a way. I think because it's such an irregular number, these things usually come in like 4s, 6s, 8s, 10s, going back to the old New Who, 13, 12. So 5 feels like such a specific number, so I'm hoping it was just the right amount to tell this story. And also there was kind of a lot of suggestion and kind of theorising and analysis that maybe the initial idea was that this would be almost like an anthology kind of series dealing with different monsters from across the Whoniverse. So hopefully we do at least have some sense of closure, particularly if, given the end of the BBC-Disney relationship, there's a lot more questions around this show's future, even more so than there was for Doctor Who before the BBC committed to bringing it back.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to set up any part of Doctor Who, or do you not think we've got that far?
I don't think we've got that far.
No.
I don't think there's going to be any kind of like major tying in. I suppose it probably would be maybe with unit characters.
Yeah.
Maybe it will get referenced a bit more explicitly in this upcoming Christmas special for Doctor Who next year. I imagine if it does turn out to be this kind of bow being tied on this kind of era of Who with Russell T back as well, then there probably will be a reference to it. It does sound like Russell's really passionate about this show, so I feel like if there is any kind of massive hanging threads, it might then get picked up in the special. But then there's a lot to pick up in that special, so we hope that doesn't feel too clunky if that is the case.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. More than anything, though, I am excited to have a Doctor Who spin-off back. I feel like the Days of Torchwood were so good, and I'm just hoping it can stand on its own in the same way.
Yeah, and I've got hope. I think like Russell and Gugu are such like great actors as well. I feel like they're brilliant choices. They've both been in the Whoniverse before as different characters as well, so we know that they are like kind of like passionate and keen about working with Russell and this kind of world. So I hope that really kind of comes across in the show, and I hope it will. I do feel like it will.
I don't know why you chose me for any of this.
You have to stop!
Are you excited for The War Between the Land and the Sea? Let us know, and check out all of our coverage on radiotimes.com.